Welcome to Season 5 of eCommerce Fastlane. This podcast helps resilient entrepreneurs, marketers, and founders to accelerate growth and thrive with Shopify. And now, on to 229.
You're listening to eCommerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, this episode is brought to you by Recharge, the leading subscription management solution helping e-commerce merchants of all sizes launch and scale subscription offerings. The subscription market is predicted to grow to nearly $500 billion by 2025. That's a billion with a B. And as the fastest growing area in commerce, subscription holds tremendous opportunities to build a community of customers who share your values. Now, Recharge powers the growth of thousands of subscription merchants and their communities, turning one-time transactions into long-term customer relationships. With subscriptions, merchants are able to experience predictable revenue, increase customer loyalty, and higher average order values. Whether you're a direct-to-consumer business or an omnichannel brand, subscriptions strengthen your brand's relationships with your customers and make it easy for consumers to make repeat purchases. Turn transactions into relationships and experience seamless subscription commerce with Recharge. Get started today with a subscription payment solution trusted by over 45 million subscribers worldwide. You can check them out at rechargepayments.com/fastlane. Well, hey there, it's Steve Hutt, and welcome back to Season 5 of eCommerce Fastlane. If this is your first time listening, this is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. Now, if you're an ambitious, lifelong learner, which you probably are because you're here today, you're definitely in the right place. Now, new episodes are available twice weekly with your favorite podcast players like Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and many more. You can also stream current episodes. I think we're up to 230-ish episodes now. There's a very relevant back catalog. You can go to ecommercefastlane.com and you can get access to those and all the partners and offers and deals and things that are happening over there. In today's episode, my guest is GQ, who's the co-founder of a company called LTVplus. I'm assuming that's lifetime value. So LTVplus.com. And they're a customer service outsourcing company that helps Shopify brands to increase customer lifetime value through world-class customer service outsourcing. I think this is a very timely conversation because I'm getting a lot of pings on social media, even the brands that I manage currently. We're talking about Shopify markets and some external or some just expansion plans internationally. And they're wondering, how are we going to handle the time zone differences of offering kind of world-class support as you move into other markets? And so I think today is going to be a good conversation to learn about, is there a hybrid model or is there a model potentially where LTV Plus can fully take over, on a gradual basis? So I'm excited to unpack this a bit. So hi, GQ. Welcome to eCommerce Fastlane.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. Really glad to be here.
My pleasure. So I mentioned a bit at the top of the show, and I don't think most people have a decent idea about outsourcing customer support and understanding maybe the headcount problem and the costs associated with having to keep adding a new seat and a new person. And, as a business expands, I'm sure there's lots of analytics out there that talk about wait times for tickets and, DMs on social media. I think there's a lot of things that some, customer experience managers that are listening today understand a little bit about how can I improve all of that. And I know LTV Plus is very deep into this and understands all of this with existing tools that brands are using, which is great. So let's talk about some of these problems. First, on a high level, and I have a few other questions I want to unpack a bit, but just love to hear your story about just LTV Plus and your problems that you're solving today.
Yeah, sure. So at LTV Plus, why we even chose to start this business from the beginning was, we were seeing, I think this was at the end of 2017, start of 2018, we had an idea to outsource or provide the joys of working with remote staff from anywhere you are. And I think like my business partner, David, had a really great experience. And so did I, working with people across different time zones. And we realized we could, provide great 24/7 coverage with people who are working mostly in their daytime, from anywhere in the world. And of course, you'd still get that fluency in English, you get the skill sets that you need, you get the coverage that you need, so on and so forth. And we wanted to share this experience on a more simpler platform, so to speak. That's kind of what gave birth to the idea of LTV Plus. And you're right, LTV does stand for Lifetime Value Plus. And we initially started it with the idea of wanting to do customer success, but then we figured, I think there was a growing thing about e-commerce at that time. And, this was, like I said, end 2017, early 2018. And we figured we would start with live chat outsourcing. We figured, hey, we could help increase the conversion rates and sales if you had live chat on your Shopify store. If you have that maybe at the checkout, depending on where, maybe that's much better for post-sale support. It's always started with live chat, but that gradually evolved into a full, let's just say like the full suite of customer service. We talk about emails, we talk about social media, I talk about chat, SMS, you name it. And of course, SMS, I think, gradually kind of kicked in the past 1 or 2 years, right? And the one thing that we really push a lot for was omnichannel. And, like you said, tools on the market. So for example, working with tools like Gorgeous, Rich Panel, etc. And so where you can pull in all those channels, that's kind of what we figured, hey, that's our niche. And, we realize people really like it. And I myself, I do have a customer success background in SaaS and a little bit of e-commerce. And that's why, we figured we bring the best practices together. And so really the key thing that we noticed was, like I said, the coverage piece, right? We talk about 24/7 coverage, and it's hard for businesses to quickly staff up as needed when they're scaling. That's one. And number two, a very important one is the holiday season, right? When you have people coming through for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there are two things. One, you don't know the amount of traffic you're going to expect, right? And so you want to have a flexible partner that can kind of help scale up the team and scale it down as you need. And the second part of that is also the training time, the hiring. If you're having contract staff for just a few months, you might not have many people. It might be hard to find people. And that's where I think an outsourcing partner like us comes in. And that's kind of really our goal, is to provide really good, high quality, highly trained agents and to, stretch that coverage and provide that support as needed. And that's kind of where we got started. Yeah.
Very interesting. I wonder about the subscription model of brands, because I manage quite a few they understand the lifetime value of having a subscription offering. I've had Recharge on and Order Groove and Bold Commerce and a few of the kind of big Plus technology partners that connect to Shopify's subscription API. Is there any service available inside LTV Plus to maybe help with potential failed credit cards, or maybe trying to understand a little more about maybe why they're churning, or is it a flavor fatigue problem, or instead of maybe the self-serve model and then just going in and canceling, is there any way that LTV Plus can goaltend a little bit and maybe help a subscription brand?
Sure. So yeah, actually it's funny that you brought that up. And so in recent, like the past 1 year or so, we started developing a failed payment recovery service, because we started to see hey, as much as subscriptions are coming through and we have Dunning software, and obviously all of them are doing a great job. Could be like Trendbuster, you could have, Recharge itself sending out Dunning emails or SMSs, that's obviously great, but some of them do still slip through the cracks. And we decided that, with testing it out with human outreach, right? So we have, agents or specialists, rather, payment recovery specialists that reach out through perhaps email, SMS, or even phone calls, depending, if we have permission to or not. And that we realize actually helps encourage or increase the recovery rates dramatically, right, alongside the Dunning software, because it kind of cuts through the noise at some level, right? Like for emails, for example, you're not just getting another marketing email, but you're getting it from, say, someone called John or Jane or whichever. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. That's something that you might click and open because it's an actual conversation with a person. Or, just receiving a call or an SMS to kind of tell you, hey, your card's not going through, there are insufficient funds, and kind of like putting the solution ahead already, right? Like saying, hey, you can update your credit card here or whatever. And I think that what we saw started working really well with the failed payment recovery piece, which encouraged us to really develop the service a lot further to this year, was that, we're not just helping to recover payments, right? That's one part of it. And obviously it's the low-hanging fruit. But on top of that, we were also able to collect feedback. I think that was really helpful, just kind of understand why people love subscribing to this brand, what do they love about the products, or if people are really going to cancel anyway, why are they leaving? What do they not like about the product or the overall experience? And we can kind of get that information during the actual interaction. Besides that as well, I think it was a really good opportunity to create a much better customer experience, right? So let's say, we're having a two-way SMS conversation right now, your card had failed and now, okay, let's update a credit card to continue your subscriptions. And then I think you mentioned something about like flavor fatigue, for example, right? So I know because based on your, information that I know that, hey, we've just released this new product and, it kind of fits your tastes based on, kind of the history that we have. We could always suggest like, hey, we have this new product we're going to launch in a month. Would you like us to kind of send you a sample and see if you want to change your subscription to take that? And so that's kind of like because you've had that two-way conversation, it makes it a lot easier to engage and help the customer update their stuff without them having to lift a finger in a way.
What's interesting, it almost implies that, even though there's a cost associating to customer support, there really is a cost. It also, the trend that I'm hearing is that there are ways of training both your internal staff and then even LTVplus staff to saying, well, how do we make this a profit center? How do we convert and or maintain the existing business? Maybe even like goaltending some of the returns and exchanges and stuff like that. Like, it's so interesting that it truly could be a profit center, having direct access to the admin through different tools and understanding loyalty points and redemptions. And there's a larger picture at play here, I think, that's very interesting.
Oh, that's for sure. Definitely. That's kind of what we've been sharing with our clients as well. Like, hey, or we're telling brands that, customer service is not just something that you have to pay for just to, support customers. And I think that perspective has shifted a lot and people are really investing in their customer service as of today. It's a mixture of not just the team members, but also the technologies involved so that you create the best customer experience as much as possible, generating new revenue or, better retaining your customers and doing that with a lean team in this case.
So let's pivot a bit to the origin story. It's always, you kind of alluded a little bit to it with your co-founder and stuff, but it'd be interesting to maybe talk about how all these pieces came together, like in the early days, and like where did the desire or where did the expertise come from just to even want to build this company? And then slowly over time, you're growing to, it's like your staff now is just massive. So let's just talk about this kind of origin story.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I was working in SaaS for about 2 or 3 years as a customer success manager. And I had met David at a conference. I think this was when I was still based in Kiev in 2017. I had this idea of like, hey, since we're doing CS right now, but, it's always been you recruit them on your own. But what if we could figure out a way to offer, CSMs from all over the world and, just work with clients as they need them. And obviously these CSMs are already trained in methodologies or frameworks that are required and also understanding how people can extend their team. Because when we talk about customer success, it's also similar in the sense of talking about like L1 to L3 support or, talking about not just CSMs, but actual reps who can help out. And so we figured, okay, let's try that out. And we both really liked the idea. And David back then wanted to start a similar business anyway. And so we're like, okay, let's talk about it, right? The first needs that came through was really just live chat. Funny enough, didn't really dive into e-commerce from the get-go, but e-commerce just kind of came in and evolved in a way. So we started providing live chat for e-commerce stores and a bit of SaaS. And we saw that, oh, wow, hey, there is a lot of potential here. Live chat is a really good channel to generate more sales, but we could be doing much more. And clients back then started asking like, hey, do you do email as well? Do you do phone as well? And it's like, yeah, we can definitely do that. And we started scaling. Well, the one thing that was very consistent was we didn't want to always use different platforms to provide customer service, right? Or customer support. And we're like, okay, how do we best connect all of them? And then we started talking to, again, like partners like, Gorgeous or Rich Panel and figuring out how can we pull in all these different channels into one area so that we can have the lean mindset in a way, right? Like you said, like maybe it's just like a 10-man team, but we can do so much with that. And so that grew into the omnichannel piece. And gradually, we saw a lot of success with e-commerce and we decided, okay, hey, let's really focus on that. And we started creating more playbooks from all the clients we worked with. Whatever worked out, we kept, what wasn't working out, we just kept improving and going. And then finally, the subscriptions piece also kicked in and we're like, okay, hey, how about, contacting customers on behalf of our clients and reaching out before they even see it and help recover that revenue a lot quicker. And so that way brands can, focus on really just scaling their businesses and not worry about retention or recovery.
Right. I have another question about just the trends. I know I mentioned a little bit about just that I believe that customer service or support really can be a profit center. But I think you being front lines, I'm sure that's part of your whole ethos, is just trying to understand that and then how you can help brands scale that part of their business. Yes, there's a cost associated to it, but how do we offset that cost and or make it profitable by outsourcing that? Just surprise and delight, but still make more money. That's interesting to me. So let's talk about maybe customer service today. I mean, I think in 22, it's a little bit different maybe than it has been over the last couple years. I know there was this massive spike of brands going online. I think it was an interesting time. So hopefully things are starting to slowly open up now. But let's talk about the pre-purchase and then the post-purchase. I think both of these parts, kind of the early acquisition side, and then there's this retention side, this post-purchase side I talk about. So I don't know if you can help us unpack a little bit about maybe your value prop from the pre-purchase side and maybe what the post-purchase side looks like, just trends that you're seeing right now.
Sure. Like you said, let's start with the pre-purchase side of things. Now, as of today, I think it's pretty much the norm where people are expecting to be able to get in touch with if someone has any questions, right? It's kind of like emulating the real world shopping experience online, right? So you have two types, right? You have people who are very open to hitting up customer support or customer service to figure out certain products if they're not sure, and sometimes the questions that people ask or can be found in the FAQs or so, but not everyone's willing to kind of do that. They just prefer to just ask all their questions at one go because it's easier to just solve it all at one go with an assistant that's already on the site, right? And so the channel we're talking about at this point is just live chat. And we see that, through chat, for example, it's really helpful to connect with customers at scale because, one chat agent could be hitting up 5 or talking to maybe like 4 to 6 or even 8 customers at a given time. And that allows an agent to form proper relationships with these customers and also, or potential buyers. And at the same time, also offer potentially the right products, right? Someone came in looking for product A, but they're like, hey, actually based on what we've talked about, have you checked out this product? And so that automatically does two things. One, you're selling the right product, first of all, so people are happy and, you get new sales. But on top of that, that's also helping with retention because, the customer will then understand later on that, hey, just say John went out of his way to, recommend the right products just so that, they would have the best experience with the brand. And I think that, helps set the right baseline, so to speak, with the brand, because I think that's very, very important. And then on top of that, depending on the touch points, right, depending on the channels that a shopper is engaging through with their brand, having that omnichannel piece that I talked about before, it allows your customer service team to provide a much better level of personalization than people could before, right? Before you might have to jump into Facebook, you might have to go into your email system, go into your phone system, and it's not very well integrated as it should be. But now you can have them all in one place and you can see, for example, I perhaps had hit up a store through Facebook asking this question, and then I went into chat, and then I went through email. But then at every step of the way, if an agent can see the entire history and they say, hey, you know what? I saw that you were actually looking to make this purchase and you were checking out these products. I got you, blah, blah, blah. And then it really creates a much better, a stronger bond in a way, because now the customer or I would understand that, hey, they actually know what I'm doing. They see in a way, how I've been interacting with the brand, and they're, kind of like, I wouldn't say one step ahead, but they are anticipating that in a way. And so that definitely helps improve acquisition and retention overall, because again, the baseline has been set. It's really a good experience and that works out really well. So I think that one thing, it's like, if I had to, kind of backtrack and just say like, what are the key trends? We talked about customer service being a profit center. That's, I think, a given at this point, right? And the personalization piece at scale, it's pretty important. And you can do this, for example, with not just people, but also with technology, because you bring it all in together. You automate certain processes and macros, for example. Your agents are then able to kind of personalize at scale as a result. And that obviously improves your sales and obviously retention at the same time, and still helping you keep a lean team at this point. But with pre-purchase, it's kind of, just like touching, I guess like a tip of it, just like sharing kind of what we've seen so far.
Right. No, this is amazing, because this is some of the things I talk about with brands where, let's say they don't have a live chat solution on their website. And the first thing I ask them is, you should talk to your customer service manager or director of customer experience and saying, what are the top questions you get kind of DM'd on, in social or through email or through phone calls? And a lot of times saying, what's my tracking number or what's your return policy? And there's some basic just a kind of self-serve thing. So those listening today, if you don't have a simplified process on your website right away, probably through one of the chat tools, whatever one you're using through your CRM or a dedicated system, it makes sense to have literally when someone comes to the website, have, 3 or 4 dedicated buttons. Talk to a live agent, how to locate my tracking number, or what's our return policy, or whatever works for you, but have dedicated buttons and have it go to some kind of a resources page. So at least there's a quick kind of self-serve model. I think that kind of triages some of the customer interactions. But then if you really do want to talk to an agent because you're worried about size, delivery times, bundling, how to use my coupon, and can I split my payments up, and what's Shop Pay installments all about, and how does that work? I mean, there's going to be some nuances in the conversion flow. And I think that's where maybe your team fits in the equation. The self-serve kind of easy answers at scale, let technology take care of that personalization wise, maybe understanding the intent of them chatting in. But then on the flip side, you get to come into the play now and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go and offer an incredible service now that maybe I don't know what they call it, but it's just like having all these facts and things like that. Now your team comes in and is able to offer like truly one-on-one kind of personalized experience for the brand.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. And I know that, at some level, some brands might think that automating, questions like that might seem like it's very cold, but I think that's not necessarily true because, speed is kind of at some level everything, right? And if I can get all the information right now, I would rather have that versus, having to go through like waiting in a queue for like 10 people, like I'm in 10th in position or whatever. And that's just going to take a lot of time. But if you're able to do that, not only does that help with the pre-purchase side of things, but it helps a lot with the post-purchase side of things as well. Because for example, where's my order, right? You've already made the purchase and you want to look for support and you want to track where your order is. If that can already be taken care of by technology, let that happen, right? And so that kind of frees up your agents to really focus on the complex inquiries that do come through. And I think one of the other things as well is, we talked about the technology side of things to help with that. And of course, your team members are definitely as trained as they can be to help, but still there is a limited number of manpower at any given time. Now, even if you forecast, for example, okay, let's just double the team size for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? But at that point, you don't know how well your campaigns would be doing and, might do even way better than you expected. And so, having, for example, an outsourcing partner on hand to help handle the influx, I think that is something that a lot more brands are doing. Because I think you mentioned at the start of this podcast, a hybrid model, because I think that makes a lot of sense. A lot of the subject matter experts are already in the brand. They've been living and breathing the brand from day one, but they always still need some help with the legwork or at some level, some other aspects of support. And by being able to transfer that knowledge to a team that can scale as needed, I think that helps to provide the complete solution alongside technology, having your core team and a scalable team solution.
Right. This kind of reminds me of a question I was thinking of now about just the simple fact that there's other competitors. And I always say this, like where there's competition, there's business. I think it's a blue ocean with the amount of, I think there's almost 2 million brands on Shopify, or certainly close to it. And so that's interesting to me and a lot of them maybe are wholly doing it in-house, but they're starting to expand and grow either in international markets or they're not offering the best kind of service that they want to for their brand just because of headcount and other cost factors and things like that. So it'd be interesting to just maybe talk about like what's uniquely intentional about LTV Plus, because I know as a founder, you definitely kind of look at the landscape and say, okay, well, we started off with live chat, but then we're finding that there's other opportunities out there. And so obviously you've honed your craft over the years and you have some SOPs that really build this company. So maybe you can share with our listeners today, like how you believe that LTV Plus is intentional to differentiate maybe from others that are available to them in the Shopify ecosystem.
Yeah. So like we break it down into like 3 uniques, right? Based on the EOS system. But I think there are more than that I can think of sometimes. But the first one being that, all the customer service agents that we have, they are all like well-trained beforehand. And they're all dedicated, meaning that, an agent that works for a brand is not working on another brand. And that's the majority of it, although recently we started offering like a shared model just to kind of, help smaller businesses scale up, but the end goal is for us to figure out a dedicated model because we do see a lot more quality and success when all an agent does is live and breathe the brand because, we want to, in a way, emulate what it's like for the core team, right? And so that kind of built that bond, and people, they obviously support the brand a lot better when they understand it and love it. And one thing to add to that as well is that, all the agents that are selected for a brand are based on a profile that our clients need, right? And not even just okay, yeah, sure, they worked in customer service for a while, they understand Shopify, they understand the technologies that are used to support the shop or the store, but also it's the interest, right? So for example, if we're dealing with women's fashion, we want to make sure that the agents that we're bringing on have not just have the experience in it, but also have a strong interest in it, right? They could talk hours and hours on end about women's fashion, or even like fitness supplements, etc. Right? So we see how that gradually translates into the brand voice. Now you can set up a style guide, or you can set up like a brand voice, like guidelines, right? That agents should talk in a more casual manner, more formal manner, depending on the store. But that naturally comes through when the agents are selected, based on the brand's requirements. That's something that we do extensively to ensure that that never gets lost. And on top of that, really, we do see success with certain strategies or frameworks that we've done with other stores. And so we replicate those into actual playbooks, obviously without the confidential information, but just kind of like how this could work better. And we share that across all the other stores that we're working with, just to make sure that whatever that we can take away from that, people can benefit from it as well, right? And I think really the two other things I can think of are, number one, that we have a customer success manager every step of the way that is acting as the consultant for customer service. So you have obviously, your director of CX or, someone on your team that does that, but kind of like we are like the sounding board, right? We might see, okay, hey, these things are working, but have you considered this, right? Based on the data that we collect while working with a brand, what are some ways to improve customer service? So that's like kind of like the sounding board, a consultant that we provide. And then really, finally, the one thing that we really are proud of is that we have a fully functioning outsourcing company that's 100% remote, right? So they're in any time zone, in any language that you require, any skill set. And we have these people all over the world. And we don't have a single office, which definitely helps tap into the global manpower pool. And so people are never really limited by location.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's just nice to understand how you differentiate in the marketplace and stuff like that. And that's kind of the reason why I have this podcast, because I think there's some great software and some great processes are being built right now. And so, if outsourcing or considering how do I improve my customer experience overall, it sounds like LTV Plus is really obviously helping. I've gone to your website and you're helping a lot of brands. And so I really appreciate that. And I know you're helping them scale up their businesses. And so I think that's fabulous. One thing I want to pivot to is getting into a story, because it's interesting to me that you have a lot of case studies, but I think a story can really educate and really inspire people to kind of take action, because they kind of put themselves in their shoes and going, they didn't have an outsourced solution or a hybrid model. They were kind of do it themselves, a little bit of duct tape along the way, but now here they are now, and maybe they found LTV Plus, they've implemented it, and then, it had some kind of positive outcome that was important for the business, whatever those metrics are. And so I don't know if you could I don't want to put you on the spot here, but it'd be nice if you could maybe just talk about maybe a brand, just specifically what motivated them in their current process, and then what happened when they became a customer of LTV Plus.
Yeah, for sure. So the one brand that I can think of off the top of my head is Pink Lily. Now, we've been working together, I think, slightly over a year or maybe even two now. If my memory serves me correct, I think it's slightly more than a year to two now. We have a really great partner, Reamaze. And so we were chatting, and they had mentioned that I think Pink Lily was looking for a partner with regards to customer service. They obviously have a very strong core team, and they have quite a lot of people in-house already. But they're looking to expand that team to provide better coverage. So we had started, I think, at that point with about 6 agents to begin with, just to kind of stretch for that 24/7 coverage, right? And so we built that, we started working together. And, this story, it's going to be fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but I think that the overall experience really matters a lot, right? And so initially when we started off, like I said, it was like 4 to 6, right? And then gradually when, we started the knowledge transference, the training side of things, and we started seeing how well those agents were doing, we started looking at how we could not just provide customer support, but how can we also, which ties back into, customer service being a profit center, how could we acquire more new sales for them, right? And so within the first few months, we were figuring out, okay, what are some of the best ways we could do it? And we worked together with Pink Lily to figure that out. And of course, think what really worked out well here was the fact that they had a really strong customer service team already, and it's all that information that it gave to us, and us understanding their brand and their products, right, and us understanding their processes and how we could share that with their potential customers or their potential shoppers, right? And so the initial training stage and transfers was so crucial that it worked out really well, that we understood, kind of like how those products work, how their processes work, and then really taking that on so that whenever they needed to scale based on, their requirements or based on the holiday season, they just had to tell us like, hey, we really need to scale the team and anticipate this. Could we have people on standby? So for example, we have had situations where we had like maybe 10 agents on our end, and then we just had to prep another 5 or 10 more just to like kind of prepare for that wave, even though there were automations in place, but there's always something that you still need people, right? And so we did that, and we had that scalability factor sorted out with them, and that really worked out well. And I think going past just the processes and obviously the great agents and people that we worked with, Piccoli is obviously very awesome to work with. And on top of that, I think there's a really good relationship between our customer success manager, Melissa, who's working with them as well. There was this really strong trust that, we would always be there to help and make sure that no matter what, we would always be on the lookout for them. And as a result, through the working relationship that we have, I think they pretty much are very focused on many different things right now. And, they know that they can trust that LTVplus will take care of customer support as they need it. And we've even gone on, I forgot, there was a webinar that we did together with their director of customer experience recently, I think last year. I think it was on Hot Media, I believe. I forgot now. But we did one together as well to kind of share that story. And so, stories like that, it just makes me really happy to know that we have a really strong bond with our client, right? And that we understand that we're able to provide that support. And it's not just always about, the key differentiator, but I think it's just really being people and providing the best experience that you can. Because, we're providing customer service as an outsourcing service. So we should be great at also, basically supporting our customers as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's the whole know, like, and trust factor, right? That they know you, they like you, they can count on you. So there's this trust factor that goes along with it. I love this hybrid model because I think most brands, that's just exactly where they're at today, where, they know they've got to $100,000 a month in revenue or $1 million a month in revenue because they have some form of customer support. It just makes sense. The post-purchase, the pre-purchase, it's all there. Some through tools and automation, others through direct interaction. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But just to continue scale, I just love the fact that, this brand made the decision saying, hey, you know what? Can you be on call? Can we test it out a little bit here and let's see the interactions and stuff and how it is? And then obviously there's an audit flow and an audit process. There's always that challenge, are they going to answer and communicate in the same tone and voice of our existing customer service agents based on, the founders get very sensitive when it comes to how we're interacting. And it sounds like there's an onboarding process. There's an audit flow. We're updating a lot of things in the internal processes and systems just to make sure that all of that is on point. So am I right to assume that?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Definitely. Because we have to ensure, we have this idea of during the onboarding process, which you brought up, right? We want to make sure that there is a 30, 60, 90-day plan, right? To understand, when we first onboard a client, understanding what their needs are. And that will gradually evolve because even when we first have that conversation, it's only apparent to both parties, okay, this is the tip of the iceberg. But then as we dive deeper into it and we actually see the whole operation in play, then we're like, okay, you know what, actually, we can better consult and provide a more relevant solution. Because we then realize, okay, actually, you can tweak this. Maybe you need to add more people here, remove people here, and kind of reassign things. For example, splitting up your team instead of having everyone as a customer service agent focus on everything. You can have pre-sales team and a post-sales team, stuff like that. And so that 30, 60, 90-day period really allows us to not just learn more about the brand, create training resources, create a way for us to take on hiring and training in our end so that, customers can basically focus on the growth and retention of their business. And then on top of that, it's also being able, like you said, an audit process, but a quality assurance process where we go through all the conversations that our agents are having with their customers to understand, what's working well. Things that are working well, we like to double down on, obviously. And then things that are not working well, how do we improve that? How do we get better at it? And obviously a lot of input from our client as well helps us work towards that goal. So ideally by the end of 90 days, all right, we're at a stage where it's hey, we're pretty much fully implemented in the system, fully implemented in the business. We're just like another department and you can just say hi and just kind of walk by and, we're just pretty much integrated.
Yeah, I love it. So the feedback loop from the brand back to LTVplus, I think it's a nice flywheel to have to continue the right experience that the brand wants.
That's for sure. Like feedback is super crucial. That's the only way for us to work together and grow.
I love it. So we are nearing the end of the show for today. And, I just want to thank you. You've shared a lot. I've scrambled like a ton of notes here, like just life of learning, honestly, like it's just part of my mantra here. But I just would like to understand maybe the future of LTV Plus. If you can share with our listeners, say a little bit, like what's your North Star, I guess, for the remainder of 22 or beyond? Is it partner alignment or innovation? I'm just curious, are you playing nicely with other pieces of technology in the Shopify ecosystem? Just overall, it'd be nice to get warm and fuzzy about, you're here today and you're helping lots of brands. Where's your strategy moving into the rest of this year or even into next year?
For sure. So talking about our services right now, we are very heavily focused on customer service, right? But we believe that the lifetime value plus or LTV plus, we're starting to see more requests and it's evolving towards also providing more, for example, back office support. Yeah. So there are other aspects of e-commerce and SaaS that we can be supporting. So we figured that we will gradually evolve the service. And like at the beginning, we talked about offering a shared model. We want to be able to help smaller businesses as they scale, smaller stores to scale. And so that's a new offering that we started offering maybe in the past 6 months or so. We're seeing great success with that. Also the back office piece, so it's just going past customer service for one. I think that's one of the key things for us on the service delivery side or our services. But on top of that, it's also technology. Right. So we've been obviously working a lot with different technologies on the market and, all the Shopify tech partners are really awesome to work with and we're great friends with them. But on our end, we've also started creating, or rather it's actually kind of launched right now, but it's still in the initial stages. You can actually check that out. It's called Recover Payments. So it's on recoverpayments.com. And, the goal here is that we have a filled payment recovery CRM or platform that allows us to integrate with stores and their payment processors to understand, when a failed payment comes in, we can act on that, right? And so, credit card issue or insufficient funds, we can then make that outreach through email or a phone call just to kind of help recover that payment. And I think it makes it a lot easier for our brands who are currently using us for this failed payment recovery service to now have a home or a platform where they can better see, statistics, understand what's going on with each contact. And that gives us a lot more power and flexibility to do that. And so then taking this technology for further integrations down the line.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So it's a done for you failed payment recovery service. It's very interesting. Yeah. And obviously you're connected with Recharge and others. So yeah, this is a very interesting model that I've not seen directly. So I'll make sure I put this in the show notes for everybody too, just in case if you're a subscription brand. And I know there is some technologies and things available trying to recover some of these things, but maybe there's some opportunity to pause and think about, well, like, what is this recovery payment solution all about and how can it help? And I think it must open doors for you also to saying, hey, we offer this service, or hey, maybe for the starting point, we're going to do the hybrid model first or the shared model first. I see it's quite affordable too. I've been looking at the site and like even the shared kind of agent model, $880 for 4 weeks seems quite affordable. 2 to 3 agents covering 2 or 3 brands per shift worldwide. And it's interesting. So I think it's an extremely affordable option. And it's nice that it's not necessarily based on kind of per ticket or an outcome. So I think that's the other option some people think about is like the pricing model and how does it work? And in yours, it's like, hey, we have a shared option and here it is. And, we're here to, I just want to make sure that I'm clear about these different options. There's a dedicated option and then obviously there's the failed payment recovery option too.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. We were thinking a lot about whether we were going to use the per ticket model, and we realized we want to keep it simple for our clients as well. Like, if they're benefiting from it, hey, we're just here to help. The person's here, we train them, and we're all working together as a team, and then we just let it be as a scalable way. And we realized that a lot of the time brands benefit from it not being, on a per ticket model depending. And so the share model was kind of to offset that, like, if someone didn't want to pay for a dedicated team right now because they don't necessarily have the need for it, what's the other option? And so their shared model came out.
Yeah, it's lovely. It also allows you, to make that entry to like cost wise. I know we're trying to make it into a profit center, but at the beginning it's like, okay, it's $880 a month as a test, a couple agents available, in my off times. It's certainly worth a test for sure to see the amount of interaction that's happened. And then they're not worried about, well, how many tickets did they actually do? That information is available, obviously. And then you can start doing your own cost analysis of like the value of $880 a month in the off hours and how does that all flush out. But at the end of the day, it's not being billed by per ticket or per business outcome. And so I think that's cool. I know we did talk offline just before recording and understand that if outsourcing some customer service is important to a brand and they want to kind of kick the tires a bit and they want to learn more about it, where should people go? And apparently you have a nice offer for those that make the decision that they won't want to test out LTVplus.
Yeah, for sure. So to find out more about us, LTVplus.com, that's LTVplus.com. That's a really good place to check us out. We do have a bunch of case studies and resources online, and we are going to be scheduling a lot more webinars this year. We'd love to, work more with our partners to talk more about retention, how you can work with acquisition through customer service and all the other technologies at play to kind of support that. So keep a lookout, and obviously you can find us on LinkedIn as well. And on top of that, as we are launching, we have launched it, but it's still a little bit quiet right now because we haven't really done a lot of promotions for it. But we do have recoverpayments.com as well. So recover like recovery, so recoverpayments.com. And you can find us more about there. And then, if you're interested in the payment recovery service and platform, just, hit us up. We do have a contact form there that we can, obviously have a conversation about. And then at the same time, this applies to everything really. If you're on the fence, you're not sure if you'd like to give this a shot, whether you like to outsource customer service, you've heard a lot of horror stories, you're not sure, hey, should I be working with someone else? Why am I not doing this in-house? We do have a 10% off for the first 3 months, and the coupon code is FASTLANE2022, so FASTLANE2022. And, really, we'll talk about it and figure out the solution for you. And this is always an iterative process. Like what we start at the beginning may not always be the actual solution at the end of it. It might be a lot more affordable than you actually think that you need.
That's lovely. So what I'll do is it'll be ecommercefastlane.com/LTVplus. And that will be kind of the quote unquote, the pretty link. That's going to redirect you to your landing page. So, those listening today, if you want to learn more about their service, take them up on this offer, this 10% off for the first 3 months. All the details, the coupon code, and all the onboarding processes will all be there. And same if you're in the subscription business, there's opportunity through recoverpayments.com. So all of this will be in the show notes. And so this is great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. And I know you know this, but Shopify's mission, it really is to make commerce better for everyone. Like I'd argue maybe to build a path that leads to more entrepreneurs and more independent retail. I mean, you always hear Harley Finkelstein, the president of the company, always talking about this. That's the main reason why Shopify is in business, just to make this path that leads to more entrepreneurs. And it's very clear once they become an entrepreneur that, you're also in tight alignment with wanting to help brands. Number one, improving efficiencies. I can see it right away by outsourcing some of that work. Growing revenue. We're talking about this being a profit center. Yes, it costs money to outsource, even in a hybrid model, to have customer service, but the overall growth of your brand and access to, getting them to maybe not return in exchange or push them over the line a bit about a conversion based on giving one-on-one kind of personalization. So I think that's definitely a profit center. And then at the end of the day, it's building lifetime customer loyalty. So really is customer service can be a profit center is kind of what I'm learning today, and LTV Plus can do that. So thanks for taking time and sharing your knowledge and your vision today and just kind of giving back to the ecosystem.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. I'm glad I can offer as much value as possible.
Well, have yourself a great afternoon and look out for the show soon. It'll be live in the next week or so.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Today's episode was brought to you by Recharge, the leading subscriptions payment solution for Shopify brands. Thousands of merchants use subscriptions powered by Recharge to grow their business and their communities by increasing average order value, reducing churn, and providing predictable recurring revenue. Turn transactions into relationships and experience seamless subscription commerce with Recharge. You can check them out today at rechargepayments.com/fastlane. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you, a loyal listener of eCommerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms. All with my personal goal to help you build, launch, grow, and scale with Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.